going to start this round table, very important one. Related to youth and protection of the environment. We're going to be given by secondary students. Isabel Moro wasn't able to come today, but one of the teachers from Gijón is going to take her place. It'll be co-chaired by Amos Shapira from the University of Tel Aviv. They've agreed to share out the work. Professor Era will introduce the people intervening from the different institutes or secondary education institutes, and Shapira will deal with the debate later on. Our debates or the Q&A sessions are quite active. And it's to and fro comments. The person in the audience can ask a question, the speaker can answer the question, but then in turn the person asking the question can further comment. Professor Era, thank you to all of you for being here and for the great enthusiasm shown. Could he use the microphone, please? Microphone, we can't translate. Right, I can hear him now. Good morning, everybody. I was they were saying that this is one of the parts of the program that interests us most. That is the pedagogical program, and it interests us a great deal because it's an opportunity for the schools in the province and the autonomous community or the region that is, to express research projects that have been carried out in several schools. And from this moment on, you'll be able to hear about the projects. The first of the schools is the Secondary Education Institute, Real Instituto Jovellanos, from Gijón. This presentation is a research project which they have called Breathing Death, the literal translation.
Vale, buenos días, perdón.
Hello, good morning. Sorry. We're here to talk about a problem that affects all of us, and that is the traffic pollution. Our institute is in the Constitution Avenue. However, we can't compare other avenues with this one, because this avenue where our institute is located is very busy. Our school is opposite what you can see in the film. This video was filmed from the window of the school. There are 4 lanes, and on both sides there are high buildings, 11 stories high, giving rise to a lot of pollutants. Here you can see the trees, etc. In this area, we can also find another 3 schools. One is for primary and the other vocational training. So the people in the area are mainly children, very young children, young people who are exposed to all of this pollution. There are different automatic pollution measuring stations that study the quality of the air. In this avenue, there is a station. Among the pollutants, we have the PM10, 2.5, nitrogen dioxide particles. These can enter our breathing tract, affect our health, as shown in many studies. PM10 particles remain in the low breathing tract, but the smaller ones affect us even more and therefore are much more harmful. These particles can lead to different diseases, disorders, cardiovascular, lung diseases, other effects, and even with low doses they can affect us. Therefore, we can say that all those people who live or study as we do in this area, where 52% of the particles come from traffic, will probably develop some sort of disorder in the future. Among the disorders, we have focused on the most common ones, which are the ones you can see on the screen. As my colleague said, these particles reach the lungs, and the 2.5 particles can reach the alveoli and affect us even more. And this can lead to blood disorders as well as cardiovascular diseases. Another of the products that can affect us is the hydrogen dioxide that comes from the exhaust tubes. And this affects our lungs once again, causing bronchitis, lung cancer, and it is also known that 25% increase in EPOC, and this percentage increases even more if people already have asthma or other breathing problems. Another important aspect is that nitrogen dioxide can affect the development of children, and there's a primary school also located in this area. We as students have to spend 6 years of our lives at this school, 6,372 hours breathing contamination, breathing the pollution. The quality of the air is insufficient in the cities, and especially in our city, which is one of the most contaminating sources. As a result of these harm caused by the particles, the WHO offers some recommendations aimed at these particles being as small as possible. On this table, we can see the values recommended and those, comparing them with those recommended by the Royal Decree. The Spanish legislation is more permissive, as we can see on the screen. The daily data are correct for both the WHO and the Royal Decree. The daily values can increase, and this is shown in the annual mean, total annual mean. To try to give a solution to this problem, we will have developed a project. Firstly, as you can see on this sketch, we would reduce the avenue to one lane in one direction, which would be shared by public transport and private vehicles. The lane would start at a crossing further up, which would become a roundabout. In this way, the space occupied by the 4 lanes would be replaced with green areas, creating a type of campus, although the campus would include different streets as well, and these streets would be closed to traffic. This area could be enjoyed by all citizens, but due to its location, those who would use it the most would be the students who are studying there. Therefore, and as we can't be responsible for the dog walkers, we would refuse the entry of dogs into the area. We wanted to set a path down so that people don't walk on the grass. There is already a bike lane which would be kept, but we would make it longer so that it goes down the whole avenue between the pavement and the green area to protect the cyclists who want to use the lane. As the average to reduce the pollutants, we would plant bushes so that the particles would be retained in those bushes and not affect the breathing tracts of the people. As we are going to modify the traffic, there is another avenue that we'd like to convert into one-lane traffic as well. Carrying out this project will benefit our health because we would be breathing in cleaner air. But there is another advantage too, because it will protect all of us, because we who go to the schools know that the cars don't respect the speed limits, and we've often had near accidents, so those would be avoided as well. Although we've just focused on our area, traffic pollution affects us all. In fact, last 18th of March, there was a demonstration, and here you can see these photographs on the screen. The march, there were about 4,000 people, and the objective was to present our recommendations. That means we aren't the only ones who are concerned with this, and we are not the only ones who want to report it, but we need collaboration to make progress. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for the Jovellanos Institute project for your intervention. We must bear in mind that these schools have been preparing these projects since the last Congress 2 years ago. They have been studying, researching, and then there are a lot of things they would like to inform us of and tell us. Everything, all of these aspects they would like to say have to be summed up in 15 minutes, which is the time allotted to them. However, on behalf of the team, the teaching team, or those, I would like to inform you that the interpreters are finding it difficult to interpret with the speed that you are speaking at. So I would like to request the speakers, the schools, to talk a bit slower, so that we can pass on the message better in English, and we can do a better interpretation of the projects. Thank you very much to the Jovellanos School. And now the Avelina Cerra School from Riva de Sella is going to present their project, which is called Round and Round in the Circular Economy.
Buenos días a todos.
Hello, good morning. Lara, Carla, Elena from the Avelina Cerra School, and we're going to talk about the circular economy. Why the circular economy? We've chosen this topic. We thought it was an interesting initiative. The steps that we'll follow will be: what is the circular economy, the resistant companies involved, and ethical proposals to save the world, starting with Riva de Sella. So let's start. What is circular economy? Well, it includes companies, initiatives that choose sustainable economy. The products should remain in the circle as long as possible. In 1969, we already talked about this. And even before that, Hannah Rickman carried out a research project sent to the EU where these methods, recycling or reuse methods, were already mentioned. What are the principles then? The first would be to optimize the resources. The second would be not buy a new article when we can use a used article. And thirdly, reuse the objects. The fourth, promotes repair. Fifth, commit to recycling. This would one of the driving forces. And finally, recovery. Make use of the waste that we have created and reuse them. And why should we use the circular economy? Well, mainly to care for our environment. According to the WHO, the carbon dioxide gas retained in our atmosphere has increased by 35% since the Industrial Revolution. Do you know how much we would reduce by repairing products? 70% less than we would use today, than would be emitted today, rather. According to a report of the UN, between 50 and 2,000 people would be displaced by the year 2050. The circular economy is an efficient way of extracting raw material and improve the quality of life of the people living on our planet, the people and everything living on our planet, or our planet. Good afternoon. This part of the talk, we're going to talk about the barriers that prevent the circular economy from working well. First of all, policies, regulation, economic, structural barriers. We're going to start with the political and regulatory barriers. Lack of support, encouragement by governments by way of taxes represent a problem to capture funding. Last year, for example, in September, the then Minister of the Environment chaired the signing of an agreement. Now there are 240 signatories. It is the commitment to reduce the use of non-renewable resources and improve the production processes. They also commit to disseminate projects that will favor the development of the circular economy. But the question is when and how. How in Spain can you foster these aspects if we don't solve the tax of the sun? Working on these instruments in favor of the environment. The laws and everything usually end up being pushed in a drawer and forgotten. The lack of awareness discourages all of this. There's little information about the resources used to make a product. There isn't awareness about the need to reduce consumption and recycle. A change in awareness, sensitivity. Why should you buy when you can reuse? If consumers see where a product is manufactured, they often think it is worse quality when it really isn't. The consumers should choose products with longer life cycle. Other barriers for financing and ecological businesses are often form barriers. The initial costs are higher when compared with large companies. They need to be transparent and establish social and corporate responsibility. The elimination of taxes could also help on products that have been recycled and reused. The circular economy would help save 600 million euros. It would create jobs and help reduce greenhouse gases by 30%. And finally, the technological barriers and infrastructures. We must point out that the circular economy is seen as something that can be admired in SMEs and large companies. But often they think that it could lead to a backward move. It is difficult to advance in circular economy if these barriers are not eliminated. To incentivize this, the European Committee of the Regions pointed out that what the circular economy can provide in our daily lives. Clean technologies, competitiveness in the companies, reducing prices. Concluding, circular economy could be carried out with public help to convince both the large companies and SMEs that it could help solve many of the problems they have. After talking about the barriers that still exist for circular economy, I'm going to try to give you an example of practices that already exist in the circular economy that have had positive results. First of all, I'm going to talk about Recompute. Recompute is a company that makes computers made from corrugated cardboard. In this case, you only have to cut out the cardboard and glue it, and then add the devices. It is much easier to dismantle once it is no longer used. Another example is Umicore. Umicore focuses on material technology. Laptops, electric vehicles, etc. Another example is Newlight. The idea of this company is why we can't use the greenhouse gas to carry out materials. We have a lot of CO2 which is harmful, and what can we do? Well, they try to harness these gases and convert them into carbon dioxide. And this way we would be able to breathe new and clean air. Another company is from Thailand. It's called Miniwes, which converts the electronic rubbish into construction materials. They make laptops that can work with solar energy, for example. This device has no carbon footprint, and it was one of the first projects of this company. Now I'm going to mention 3 Spanish companies. The first is from Madrid, which is called EcoZap. And they make shoes that have been recycled and are degradable without any pollutants. They are made they are sewn instead of glued. There is no staples. They use recycled paper, etc. Another company is EcoAlt. This company makes clothing, footwear from recycled products, such as plastic bottles, recycled cotton, and tires as well, which are they contaminate a great deal. And apart from cleaning things up, they can make clothes with them. Another company, the third company, is another Spanish company that make toothbrushes. 100% biodegradable from bamboo. It is sustainable and bisphenol free, which both the actual brush and the handle are biodegradable. The use of bamboo is also environmentally friendly, and when you finish using the brush, you can put it in soil and it is biodegradable. Just a good example of being able to clean up our world. Finally, we are going to talk about some proposal to improve the situation, starting with Riba de Sella, which is where we where we live rather. First is to replace the plastic bags with the shopping trolleys. The second would be to install return containers, the beach, at the park, where they could leave receipts, supermarket receipts, for example. And this would encourage people to recycle bottles and cans. Finally, urge the Principality of Asturias to have or include the toothbrushes we've mentioned in their health plan. Instead of giving children plastic toothbrushes, we could give them these bamboo toothbrushes. If we want the planet to continue to rotate, we must go round and round with it. Let's commit to the circular economy. Thank you very much. Thank you for the Avelina Serra Institute. Now, the next center is Santa Cristina de Lena Institute. Their project is called Recycle, Reuse and Refill.
Buenas tardes a todos y a todas.
Good afternoon to you all. Firstly, I am Pablo, and this work has been done by myself and other colleagues, Sandra Alvarez and Alba Fernandez Castellón. To start with this work, let's talk about the basics. What is recycling? What is the meaning of recycling? Recycling means to take advantage of the waste to make some materials through some processes that are not polluting. Thanks to those materials, instead of dumping them, they can be used for other things. Recycling has many advantages ecologically and economically. For example, when recycling, we generate a lower volume of waste, and therefore we contaminate or pollute less. There is a less cost of production because these processes are much more economic than throwing the products away. And when recycling the paper, we preserve the wood forests, so we avoid chopping down trees, and that is better for the environment. Another important action we should implement is to reuse, which is different from recycling. This means to give a new use to objects, but without doing any kind of process, that is, an object that was manufactured for an aim, to use it for a different aim. Advantages of reusing are the same as recycling. However, some people don't know something about reusing that has to do with economic impact on households, because when reusing objects that had already been left aside, you do not have to buy new ones, and therefore you do not need to spend so much money. Let's talk about the differences between recycling and reusing. Well, I guess that you already know the difference, but recycling means to reuse something that had been thrown away but without applying any process. Recycling means that you have to apply a process to those objects or waste to make them useful again. Let's now talk about the project we implemented. At the beginning of this project, we did this survey, and this survey was handed out to different individuals in the municipality to identify the degree of recycling, how much they recycled. For example, how often do you recycle? You can see here people who recycle always or usually is almost 50% of people. So although there are some people who never recycle, and that is harmful, we see that most people recycle. We can also see the people who separate or do not separate the waste. Most people separate it. Something that is very healthy, ecologically speaking. And then we can see the type of containers they have close to their households. Most people have clothes or paper, plastic, organic, and glass. That is what they recycle most. In the first rural nucleus of the municipality in Pola-Lena, they set up not a long time ago a mini clean spot, and we can see that the level of recycling of batteries and drugs increased. So conclusion. If you place some of those or set up more of those clean spots, then people will recycle more. And people who never recycle, we gave them an awareness brochure and we showed them where the closest clean or green spot was. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Thank you. Thank you so much also to IES Santa Cristina de Lena. Now, another speaker representing IES Fernández Vallín from here, Gijón, with a proposal called the Youth and Acoustic Contamination in Gijón, acoustic pollution.
Buenos días. Los alumnos de primero de bachillerato del IES Fernández Vallín os vamos.
We're going to share with you our presentation, Acoustic Pollution. According to the Ministry for Agriculture, Environment and Food, acoustic pollution is understood by those noise in the environment that may affect the health of species, human beings or nature. The limit of noise, according to the WHO, is 65 decibels, and the pain threshold 120 decibels. Here we can see that traffic in the city amounts to a level overcoming the limit, and we can see that when the flight takes off is also greater the noise at more than 150. The Ministry for Farming, Food and Environment created or made a website called SICA, Information System on Acoustic Pollution. This website is the necessary database on acoustic pollution with different noise maps, the population exposed to it, or the action plans implemented in Spain. A study was done in Spain to find out the most noisy cities in the country, and Gijón is one of them. Here we can see the most noisy areas in the states, the east. And the states with more noise is Chicago and Washington. Less noise, California. In a suburb in Gijón, La Calzada, a project was implemented called Holistic City Soundscapes to apply an innovative methodology analyzing a sound scenario or landscape. The most common effects of noise is stress, sleep disorders, loss of attention, difficulty of communication, and deafness. And then from here, they lead to other more severe problems. Acoustic pollution also affects animals. I will talk to you about 3 birds. First ones are the troglodytes or urban troglodytes with longer notes and longer and louder sounds. Second ones are these birds present alterations in their reproductive periods, and they have to sing louder to protect their territory. Other birds of the same species but in other areas have difficulty to communicate with each other because of the noise, and they also have behavioral problems.
Realizamos unas encuestas para
We did some surveys to see how the youngsters between 12 and 25 years of age, how they perceived noise. Number of surveys, 130 in total, out of which we divided the sample into ages. Most of them were youngsters between 12 and 15 years of age. We also made a difference between men and women, and we have more women. You see there are 91 in total. One of the questions was referring to the place where they live. Most of them live in flats, and usually there is more noise during the day, usually because they are close to parks, schools, and main roads. At night, the perceived noise is usually weak or moderate, but sometimes it can be intolerable, unbearable. We also wanted to know about acoustic pollution in their everyday life. We're referring to youngsters. Here you can see how discotheques and pubs and schools are the most noisy places, and there isn't much difference between them. As for the timetable, when there is more noise, between 3 and 8 in the evening, not much difference between the early morning when people go to work and at night when people go to rest, and there are some limits of noise established by the WHO. Youngsters think that the noise is very disturbing when they are studying or trying to sleep, and not many times when they are trying to chat with others or listen to music. To avoid these problems, the measures they use are to close windows and just to put on some earphones, and sometimes they also put some earbuds or nothing. This is how people think they speak loud or quite loud when they are just chatting with friends, so they know they are loud. In this graph we can see how most people are affected by noise in their everyday life. 25% of them do not care about it. Do you think the noise influences in the quality of life of people? And 114 people say yes. Here we can see that approximately 80% of the sample think that noise affects beings or subjects, alive subjects, but most people do not care about it. The main aim of this work was to make some measurements in our school, to then take or get an average with the data collected regarding DBs in the classrooms, the cafeteria, the patio, down the street, at the door or entrance of the school, and in the library. We use this SunMeter application. The library, the lowest measurement, obviously, because people are usually quiet. Cafeteria, the highest. And the others, even they were greater 65, the limit established by WHO, they are lower. Striking to say that, to see that cafeteria and the classrooms, we have the highest levels. These are concentration tests. To the left, you see a graph trying to relate the letter with the number following the line. And to the right, to find out the next table or a square that would follow the series, and this would give us the level of concentration. Result of the tests: first exercise, average 12 minutes without noise. Second, 17 minutes with noise. These are the two tests. A comparison, the level with noise was higher than if in silence. Solutions proposed: noise, traffic lights. So depending on whether the noise is great or lower, then it will be green or red. Some hospitals, you can see them, and in Finland and in some areas in Spain, they have already installed them. And then you can also put some balls or some patches down the chairs or the tables, or even carpets. These are the participants of this work, the students who were doing the 4th of ESO. And the speakers are Natalia Blanco, Yara Delgado, and Yanira. Acoustic pollution affects environment and human beings, and it is up to us to change it. Thank you. Thank you so much to ES Fernández Vallín de Gijón, from Gijón, sorry. Now, the program, according to the agenda, we have here is number 1, Gijón. However, we have to apologize on their behalf because they could not make it. That is why we'll finish these round of presentations by public schools here in Gijón with the last one. They are all participating in a pedagogical program. And this is the school La Corolla Liceo Gijón with a presentation entitled Youth Consumption and Environment.
Buenos días.
Good morning. My name is Alba, and this is Ivan. We're 4th year in secondary education. First of all, we'd like to thank the International Society of Bioethics for giving us the opportunity to participate in this Congress, explaining our concerns and proposals for the environment. I would also like to thank our colleagues for their interventions, who show how small actions in the classroom, like raising awareness, rethinking, in short, acting, and supporting sustainability of the environment are necessary steps in this journey without return. Today, young representatives from schools from different places in Asturias are joining forces. This is important. To advance quickly, you have to work alone, but to go a long way, you have to do so in company. So thanks to this Congress, our voices will be echoed. We know that we have your support. Our project is called Youth Consumption Environment. Last year, we asked about, in our opinion, what was the main problem in the world from 6 options: wars, inequality, corruption, climate change, and depletion of the resources on our planets were the ones most voted. How the effect on our planet and what we can do to change things, and if we do enough to change things. The idea of doing an anonymous questionnaire arose to deal with these aspects. We decided to include other colleagues between 14 and 16 years old and 125 young people from Gijón. And you can consult this on our Facebook page. We saw that on a scale from 1 to 5, where 1 is doesn't matter to me and 5 is I am concerned with it, we could see that the sustainability of the planet is something that affects all of us, governments, individuals, companies. When asked what you do for the environment, the answers were recycling, saving energy, and non-pollutant transport. Only 5 said using responsible consumption, not consuming if not necessary, and consuming products that are environmentally friendly. 23% say that recycle whenever we can. We can means having specific containers that are easily recognizable. In the case of consumer, when you consume something in the streets, you just throw things into any rubbish can. You don't recycle. So 100 of the young people didn't know about the labels. They recognized the symbols, but they didn't know what they mean. 80% say they know what green shopping means, but they acknowledge that they don't do so. These are some of the comments that were made. Based on the results of the survey, we decided to work more in depth on our role as consumers. 1,800 million young people in the world, 25% of the population between 20 and 24 years old, and our habits of consumption have effects. We decided to work with young people who know the theory but don't really know what or how they can improve things. So we decided to use the internet to be able to do this. Because do we really know what we consume? It would be ideal. The ideal would be when we buy a product to know more about it, how it is made, the raw materials, who's made it, the transport, how it's managed, and its effects on our health or on the planet. But really, the adverts only show the results. Everything looks so attractive, so clean, comfortable, convenient. It is difficult to associate all of this with the over-exploitation of resources, dirty rivers. We deteriorate the air, the soil, to satisfy our own desires, to satisfy our whims. The philosopher Fromm said that we are own consumers. This shows us a vision of all of this. We consume products, projects at a dizzy speed. Maybe it's time to stop now. And all of this fast fashion, fast food, etc. We wanted to go back to slow down, to become aware of things. And we found the circular economy and a personal story. Elena. In 2005, Helen went around the world in a yacht, and she broke the record of a solitary journey. She reused everything she could during her journey. after her experience, Ellen came back, and what she had in the yacht, the food, the toothbrush, was all she had. Ellen maybe broke the record, but she decided to stop and do things. As a result of that awareness, she created a foundation, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. She works with companies, society, to speed up the transition to a circular economy that our Ribas de Sella colleagues have talked about. And its aim is to go to the circular economy from the traditional economy. We must be aware of all of this and have responsible consumption. In this case, fashion revolution, for example. Fashion revolution announces the dark side. We like fashion, but we don't want our garments we wear to affect people. Every year we have 500 kilos of rubbish, a lot of which is plastic. Although initiatives against the use of plastic bags has started, there is still waste that we don't know how to do away with. The single-use plastic, for example, eco-revolution, has come from Barclay. We're only using the ink of a ballpoint pen, for example. When we use a car, we fill it with petrol, but when it runs out, we don't throw the car away. So what can we do with ballpoint pens? Well, what we do is recycle the ballpoint pens that we've got in the drawers in our classroom. So our aim is to recover all these ballpoint pens and make use of them again. We can do a lot in favor of sustainability through different initiatives, change the way we behave. We want to share the advice by Vicky Ferrer. She generously has helped us change our awareness. If you change your attitude towards consumption and the use you acquire, you will make many more changes than you can imagine. So don't resist, because sometimes the path may be long, but you can gain a lot from it. Carmen Valls talk about the youth as being the hope of the future. So, as Roald Dahl said, somewhere inside all of us is the power to change the world. Before we finish, and on behalf of our colleagues, we would like to congratulate the International Society of Bioethics for the 20th anniversary. Thank you to Dr. Palacios for sowing a seed in all of us to raise our curiosity and our commitment. And we would like you to accept these seeds on behalf of all of us. Happy birthday and happy anniversary.
Muchas gracias por su.
Thank you, of course, to the La Corella School for their intervention. And I think now it is time for the Q&A debate. So I give the floor to Mr. Shapira.
English. señor Shafira pregunta que cómo está el nivel de inglés, cómo es vuestro inglés.
Hebreo. Like my Spanish, unfortunately. Poquísimo. So I will limit myself to very short remarks or questions, and I will get the good service of my colleague in translating it into Spanish.
El señor Shafira pues indica que va a tratar.
He's now translating into English, into Spanish, sorry. We are not sure why, because there is simultaneous interpreting.
Para que pueda comprenderse.
First of all, for me, the last hour and a quarter was extremely impressive. Excellent performance. Astonishing performance for high school pupils.
El señor Shafira indica que en el último.
He's not translating into Spanish. We are not sure why. So we'll just go back to the interpreting when the gentleman speaks in English.
I was much impressed, among other things, by your oral expression ability, the way you speak, the way you formulate your short sentences, the clarity. Beautiful.
Indica que le ha impresionado la capacidad que hay de síntesis, la intervención con frases cortas y con claridad.
Now, a couple of questions. It would be interesting for me to learn how much assistance you received in preparing your research projects and presentation from teachers, from the municipality, from experts, from politicians. That's one question.
La primera pregunta que hace el señor Shafira pues es qué cantidad de ayuda, de asistencia ha requerido la preparación de todas estas intervenciones desde profesorado, desde otras entidades colaboradoras, desde políticos, qué cantidad de personas han participado en esta preparación.
Second question, maybe it's too early to ask you that, but do you think that the projects that you did, that you were involved in, may affect your future, your own individual future, in the sense of choosing your careers after you finish your studies? Universities, perhaps, the professions that you will select for yourselves to engage in when you become older, when you grow up.
La segunda pregunta que pone encima de la mesa el señor Shafira es si consideráis que toda esta juventud que está hoy aquí presentando, que si esto puede influir en los posteriores estudios y en las posteriores no solo carreras que vais a estudiar, sino en lo que os vais a dedicar en el futuro.
And finally, at this moment, remarks. As for the last presentation about fashion, I wish you would tell what you said about fashion to my wife, to my daughters, and to my granddaughters.
Indica el señor Shafira pues que estas intervenciones que le gustaría pues que poder contarle todas estas cosas a todos sus familiares, desde su mujer, sus hijos, sus nietos, poder llegar a transmitirles esto.
Thank you. So how do we do it?
A continuación, si hay alguna intervención.
So now, if anyone would like to ask a question, make a comment. Well, I am Mr. Palacios. Well, in fact, after I recovered, after such a pleasant surprise, I have to tell students and teachers, professors who guide you and will continue guiding you in the years to come, that it has been a great satisfaction to culture such a fertile land as yours. Those of you and those who were here before you in our pedagogical program, you have been an example of curiosity and interest in knowing we are what we know, that's mainly. And what we know, we can organize a better world. Obviously, where the seed will continue growing and growing. Sometimes to the CB, some kids come to us who have already finished their university degree and they are already working, and they come to browse books, and they come to us and they say, do you remember me? Or if they see me or meet me by chance on the street, and I say, well, not the name, but I do remember your face, or I remember your work, or whatever. You have great teachers. You have fantastic teachers. If we have time, we will show you some pictures of the pedagogical program we implemented in the last years. Well, I have to say that you have been guided by people who love knowledge and who have a lot of talent, and they have guided you towards a better world. We, the elderly, should not feel very proud of the world we are giving to you. Probably you have to sort out things, but that's how things are. So sorry to say, you are the ones mainly who will have to pave the way for a better world, a more friendly world instead of a landfill. I'm sure that you will achieve that dream, I'm sure. Thank you very much to your schools, your teachers, your families. Big hug. That is the first place where this seed has been placed, here at the heart, and all of us who belong to CB, of course.
¿Alguna pregunta que se quiera realizar?
Any further question?
I also talk in English. I don't know if there is any translation. My name is Devrin, and I come from Malawi, that is in Africa. I am very happy, and I really want to appreciate the presentations from the students.
Estar hoy aquí, me gustaría, dar mucho las gracias por las presentaciones de los estudiantes. Ha sido un día increíble. Desde ayer hemos estado muy nerviosos por todo esto del cambio climático. El impacto del cambio climático no se da en los países
que producen más contaminación, que más que contaminan. El impacto del cambio climático lo vemos en los países más pobres.
Más en los países muy pobres. Ese es Spanglish, ¿eh?
Eso es una mezcla de español e inglés, dice que interviene. Y con el impacto del cambio climático hemos experimentado incluso una falta de pluviosidad y hay mucha gente que no tiene acceso a agua potable. Muchas personas no tienen comida. Esto es algo que nos pone muy, muy nerviosos. Pero con sus charlas, las charlas de estos estudiantes, realmente son un rayo de esperanza. Nos habéis dado esperanza. Ahora alberga esperanza.
Libacea or Spain.
Porque lo que estáis haciendo aquí, lo estáis haciendo no para Gijón solamente, Asturias, o España, sino para el mundo. Esta es una fundación por un mundo mejor. Muchísimas gracias de corazón por todas vuestras aportaciones.
¿Alguna otra intervención?
Hello, good morning. I'm a general practitioner, and I wanted to just congratulate these young people. As Mr. Safar has said, there are no words to describe this impressive, fantastic, awesome presentations. But I would also like to congratulate the education professionals that are behind these young people, who are pushing them and helping them develop their knowledge. We know that secondary schools and high schools in the Principality of Asturias have an important ethical job. We know that there are programs, tutorials among peers, coexistence plans, support plans, action plans, prevention plans in the case of harassment at schools or bullying. There's also a program we health professionals take part, a program, I don't know if you know about this program, but in the summer this year, this program has been introduced into the Good Practices program by the Ministry of Health, Consumer, and it started off in 2008, the regional department here in Gijón. I would also like to congratulate the organizing committee, Marcelo Palacios, for allowing us on this last day of the Congress to listen to these beautiful words and presentations.
¿Alguna otra pregunta?
Any more questions, comments from the floor? Monsieur Chapar? The students should participate. He would like to hear more from the students, if that is. Anybody wants to say anything, add anything?
¿No se atreve nadie?
Nobody dares? Nobody?
about future careers, for instance.
Acerca de vuestras futuras carreras,
Yo lo anticipé el primer día.
The first day, this is something I already mentioned, but I said that for next year we are going to give an award to students from secondary education for drafting a convention on human rights and biomedicine, which has been divided into different phases until they reach high school level. This document was considered, at least this is what I heard, as the 5th or 6th most important document in the history of mankind. And the Secretary General of the Council of Europe calls it the Convention of Asturias on Bioethics for Human Rights and Biomedicine. Well, it seems worthwhile being acknowledged by all of us, or young people at least. So for the next call, which is communicated over the website of the Teachers and Resources Centre that help us in our work, I encourage you all to participate. The awards are tablets and things like that, which are important for your studies too. So I encourage you all that as soon as the call comes out, the decision will be taken in June. I encourage you to read this and look into the bases, which are very simple, and present your projects. This is an important document which is essential related to the human rights and biomedicine. Thank you very much, and good work to all of you. Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm Alba from the Corolla School. About the question you asked about our future careers. Well, to begin with, I'm thinking of doing aeronautical engineering and to be able to change the engines used in airplanes, and focusing on how in that way I could help reduce pollutants and waste. And whatever I do, I will try to achieve this.
Yo creo que es un principio.
I think it is a start. Somebody has broken the ice, so maybe somebody else wants to say a few words. Anybody else wants to participate? Yes, if you allow me, I would like to ask the students a question. The last intervention has led me to ask this question. Over these days, you've been here listening to the presentations on environmental matters. the impact on health of people all over the world, what conclusion do you draw from all the projects you've carried out? If I were your age, I would maybe think, well, when I finish secondary, what am I going to study to be able to have an influence or impact on the world tomorrow? What profession do you think could help solve the problem? What professions could provide or contribute to improving the health of people? Aeronautical engineering, as our colleague said, or maybe health practitioner, helping the sick, doctors, nurses, maybe an agricultural engineer who is going to work with the food stuff that are going to reach us, maybe a philosopher, that is, or maybe politician who can make changes in the world using political decisions. I would like an answer to this question, if possible, if we have time to answer the question, that is. He hasn't said, I'm going to say. The person who's just mentioned is Dr. Pablo González, who is a member of the Bioethics Committee, the International Committee. There are only 12 members all over Spain, so representing Asturias. He's also the director of the University Clinic of Asturias, and as from yesterday, he is a member of the Scientific Committee of SIBI. So he is a person who has asked questions and who has a lot of background knowledge. And he is being humble. He hasn't given his name or post, but that is the person who has asked the questions.
¿Quién se anima a dar una contestación?
Anybody would like to answer? There is a question in the air.
Pues yo soy alumna de bachillerato y
I am one of the students of the schools represented here because I would like to answer the previous question, because I think it is very interesting to discuss these topics. In my opinion, well, I still do not know what I'm going to study, but what I have clear is that the future professions will be focused on new technologies, engineering, but I do think and believe that we, citizens of the future, should be good communicators, firstly, and be able to communicate with the other human beings, because empathy and other similar values maybe nowadays are not that important, but I think they should be more important, no? Because we live in a consumption society. Maybe politics focus only on issues, on problems. In my opinion, not only politics, but all politicians, but also normal people will have to give the final push towards a better world, a smarter future, if you wish, and to try to improve the world we have to live in. Thank you.
That's communication.
¿Alguien más quiere intervenir?
Any other comment, question? Good morning, rather good afternoon. It has been a pleasure to share this Congress with you. I come from Buenos Aires, Argentina, involved in bioethics for some years. I am a philosopher, theologist as well. I'd like to listen to some of the students, their opinions, those who devoted some time to research. And I'd like to know their opinion about the following question. What was the meaning for you to have looked into this matter from a scientific standpoint, a bioethics standpoint, because you investigated from some other approach, trying to solve an issue, but as a plus? The plus was the bioethics perspective or approach. I'd like to listen to that personal experience, because I'm sure it will be a very positive comment.
Yo creo que esta ya es una pregunta muy.
I think this is a very direct question, so you really have to take the floor. Anybody would like to pinpoint some of those aspects? If the worst is past now. Hello, good morning. I represent a school, La Corolla. I was not a speaker, but I did participate in the project. For us, the meaning has been a change of environmental perspective. All the students were involved. It was a good teamwork. It was great. No? Anybody else? Good morning. I am Alba from the Institute Jovellanos, a public school. For us, this work meant that we realized that sometimes we are blocked to change. We know that we have to improve the environment, the place where we live, but while we were doing our project, we presented a paper on traffic pollution. Together with my colleagues, we had many discussions on, well, we cannot do that, we cannot do this, because some people would not like it. But we really neglected the environmental improvement just for the sake of our own comfort. And if we continue behaving like that, we will never improve the world. Hello, I come from the school in Ribadesella, and I'd like to comment on our perspective regarding the project. What was striking was to look into this matter and realize that in terms of the environment, many of the laws we would have liked to be there
At some point they were already there, but people were not abiding by them. They were not complying them, and the politicians, the political parties just neglect them. For example, one of the laws has already come into force already in 2015, and nobody complies with it. So for us, it is true. It is a research project, but what made us think that why do they make laws and they draft laws and then they come into force and then nobody just complies with laws? We don't understand. So that was our final reflection. Any other comment or question? Anybody else? I think somebody raised a hand.
A strange, perhaps, idea or question. Do you think that the humanities, poetry, literature, research in history can help in this regard? Not only medicine and law and engineering, etc., but the humanities. To contribute to human solidarity, to thinking about each other, not only about myself, not only about my economic wealth, my financial success, something higher, poetry, art.
El señor Shafira pregunta.
He's now translating what Mr. Zafira has just mentioned.
La poesía, la historia, la literatura puede contribuir de la misma forma a estos aspectos que hemos visto más o menos hoy desde un punto de vista más de salud, que si pueden contribuir también desde una forma solidaria, no pensando solamente en uno mismo, sino pensando también en el resto, en el beneficio y en, digamos, el bienestar de todo el resto, de todos juntos.
Hola, buenos días.
Hello, good morning. I study at the university, administration studies and public administration. And just linking his question to the main topic addressed, I think that laws are there more or less, not what the voice said. And for politicians to move on and get hands on and accelerate the legislative processes demanded, I think society should know those laws and should get involved. So by doing that, we would be promoting change and it would become a change driver, and progress would be urged and accelerated. Progress well understood, of course. environmental progress, circular economy, so on and so forth. But it very much depends on the society, consumer, the user, citizen. And of course, poetry, literature is also part of that society, and that would urge that change. I do not know whether that change is a utopia. I hope it is not. I hope that in the future I can contribute to urging these change as well, somehow. Good afternoon. Firstly, congratulations to all the boys and girls for being so brave and for their great presentations. I am really taken aback. I come from Colombia, and I would like youngsters to take advantage of these fora. We know bioethics when you are an adult in bioethics, no? When you are an expert, when you have studied a master course or done a doctorate studies, but we do not have the information at your age, no? You are very young. So I would encourage you to take advantage of these fora, these seminars, very informative seminars, and that you apply this know-how to your life, not only in your professional life, but also in your personal life. You should apply bioethics, because there are facets of bioethics that can be applied at different areas and at different levels. You are privileged, and you should feel privileged, really, to be here. So take advantage of the space given by Dr. Marcelo, because I think it is very valuable.
No tengan miedo de hablar, de sustentar, de exponer todos sus...
And do not be afraid of presenting and sharing your projects, your experiences. So congratulations. And I'll go back to Colombia very happy. Good morning. I study at the school La Corolla, Gijón. I just wanted to mention that in my viewpoint, all disciplines are important to urge that change in the environment, because the environment is transversal. Any other comment or question?
So far we have heard mostly from young women. You know, we live in an era of
vivimos en una era de igualdad, ¿no? Así que vengan los hombres, los chicos, que también tienen que participar y decir yo también.
Tiene que haber un poco de igualdad en la participación. Opina que los hombres participan menos, que se animen. ¿Alguien más quiere intervenir?
Any other comment or question?
alguna pregunta, con alguna intervención, con
Any question, any comment, any additive?
Pues nada, yo creo que podemos dar un poco parte.
Well, I think that with this we finish the morning session. Thank you to everybody for being here this morning. I think that it is clear that the slogan of the Congress that was youth and environmental protection, well, it is clear that our youngsters are aware of the environmental issues they are facing, and it is clear that they are very good researchers and they can give solutions to our problems. Thank you very much.